When my fiance first brought up her bachelorette party, I thought it would be the usual some girls trip, maybe a spa weekend, cocktails with her bridesmaids. Instead, she leaned across the couch one evening and casually dropped, "So, my bachelorette party is a week-long Vegas trip with my best friend." I smiled, expecting her to say best friend as in one of her bridesmaids. But she didn't. She said his name Jason, her male best friend. At first I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she stared at me, stone-faced, and added, "Deal with it." The words hit me like a sucker punch. Not only was she serious, but the way she delivered it felt like a command, not a conversation. A week in Vegas with a guy she once admitted had confessed feelings for her in college. That wasn't just reckless, it was insulting. I leaned back slowly, studying her. "So, let me get this straight. You want to celebrate our engagement, our upcoming marriage, by spending 7 days in Vegas with a guy who once tried to date you?" Her response was chillingly calm. "Yeah, because he's my best friend, and if you love me, you'll trust me. Besides, it's my party. It rules." That was the moment something inside me shifted. I realized she wasn't testing my trust. She was testing my boundaries. And instead of exploding, instead of begging or trying to reason with her, I just smiled. "Have fun," I told her. Her eyes narrowed like she was expecting a fight that never came. She brushed it off, muttering something about me being mature for once. But inside I was already planning, because if she was going to redefine the rules of respect, I had every right to redefine mine. So I called up a few old friends guys she had always considered threats, my buddy Derek, who once flirted with her at a college party, my cousin Matt, the one she always said gave her weird vibes, and a few others who, let's just say, carried reputations that made Jason look like a choir boy. I told them, bachelor party, Vegas. Same week. Let's do it big. And they didn't hesitate. Within hours, I had a group chat buzzing with hotel bookings, club reservations, and enough chaos planned to make the hangover look tame. When she overheard me on the phone booking my flight, her smile faded. "Weren't you going to Vegas too? The same week?" I shrugged. "Of course. Bachelor party. Have fun with Jason. I'll be having mine." For the first time since she announced her plan, I saw doubt flicker across her face. But she didn't say anything, just forced a laugh and pretended to brush it off. What she didn't know was that Jason, her precious bestie, would soon find out exactly who I invited. And that was when her little trip started to unravel. The shift began 2 nights later. I was in the kitchen, scrolling through my phone, when I heard her voice rising in the other room. She was on a call with Jason, and it didn't take long to realize I was the subject. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "It's his bachelor party. It's not like they're going to do anything stupid." I smirked into my coffee. The way she said it, with that edge of panic, told me everything I needed to know. Jason had gotten wind of who I'd invited. I leaned against the counter, listening. "No, it's not like that. He invited Derek because they used to be close. Stop being paranoid." She paused, then lowered her voice. "Matt, okay, yeah, I don't like him either, but it's not my party." I almost laughed out loud. Jason wasn't just uncomfortable, he was threatened. And the best part? I hadn't said a word to him. Someone else had clearly leaked the names from the group chat. She finally hung up. She came into the kitchen, arms folded tight across her chest. "What exactly is your plan?" she demanded. "My plan?" I raised an eyebrow. "It's my bachelor party. I invited my friends." "Same thing you're doing. Don't play dumb. You know exactly what you're doing, Derek." "Matt, really?" I sipped my coffee, calm as ever. "I thought the rule was, if they're important to me, you have to accept them. Isn't that what you said about Jason?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She hated that I'd turned her own argument back on her. That night, Jason showed up at our apartment. I was sitting on the couch when she opened the door, and the guy walked in, shooting me a look that could cut glass. "We need to talk," he said, directing it at her but staring straight at me. She pulled him into the kitchen, but their voices carried. "You can't seriously let him bring those guys," Jason hissed. "Do you know what they'll do in Vegas? Do you know what kind of trouble they'll get him into?" Her reply was quiet, defensive. "It's not my call. Jason wasn't buying it. Cancel it, or I'm not going to Vegas." I couldn't help but grin. That was the crack I'd been waiting for. The second her golden boy started giving ultimatums, the whole thing began to collapse. Later, when Jason left, She turned to me with fire in her eyes. You did this on purpose. You knew he wouldn't go if you invited them. I leaned back, hands behind my head. I didn't make him back out. I just made it clear I get to have fun, too. If he can't handle it, maybe he shouldn't be your +1 to a week-long getaway. Her face fell. For the first time, she realized she wasn't holding all the cards, and I had only just begun. By the following weekend, the tension in our apartment was thick enough to slice with a knife. My fiancée spent most of her time glued to her phone, texting furiously. Pacing from room to room like she was trying to put out a fire no one else could see. I didn't have to ask what was going on. I already knew. Jason was unraveling. It was Sunday morning when she finally slammed her phone down on the table and blurted, "He's not going." I looked up from my laptop. Jason. She rubbed her temples like she was fighting a migraine. Yeah, he says the trip is off. He's not comfortable with your group. I closed my laptop slowly, fighting the smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. That's a shame. Guess your bachelorette party just got a lot shorter. She glared at me. Don't act like you didn't plan this. You invited those guys just to scare him off. I shrugged. Or maybe Jason isn't the kind of friend you thought he was. If a couple of names on my guest list are enough to make him bail, maybe that says more about him than me. Her eyes flashed, but she had no comeback. The silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Later that night, as I was packing for my own Vegas trip, she tried again, this time with a different tactic. You know, she began softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. We could just cancel both trips, save the money, avoid the drama, stay here, spend time together before the wedding. I looked over at her. For a split second, I almost bought it. Almost. But then I remembered how she'd said deal with it. When she first announced her little adventure with Jason, like my feelings didn't matter. You didn't want to cancel when it was your trip, I said evenly. Funny how now that Jason's out, suddenly it doesn't sound so appealing. She flinched, and I could tell the words hit home. The next day, I got a text from one of my groomsmen. Bro, Jason just tried to join our group chat. What's going on? I laughed out loud. Apparently Jason wasn't done meddling. He had decided that if he couldn't have his Vegas trip, he might as well keep tabs on mine. But my guys shut that down instantly. When I told my fiancée, she went pale. He what? Yeah, I said casually, pulling on my jacket. Looks like your bestie doesn't trust me either. Guess that's something we have in common? She sank onto the couch, speechless. For the first time, she looked less like the confident bride-to-be and more like someone watching her carefully stacked cards start to topple. And I wasn't finished stacking the deck. The morning I left for Vegas, she hovered around me like a storm cloud, arms crossed, lips pressed so tight they looked white. You don't have to go, she muttered, watching me zip up my suitcase. You could stay. We could spend the week together instead. I looked at her calmly. You didn't say that when you were planning your week with Jason? Why the sudden change of heart? Her mouth opened, then shut again. She didn't have an answer. I kissed her on the forehead before grabbing my bag. Hey, don't wait up. The flight to Vegas felt like freedom. The second I landed, my phone buzzed nonstop texts from my groomsmen already in the group chat. Got the suite booked. Bottle service tonight. This is going to be legendary. Meanwhile, my fiancé's texts started rolling in too. At first, they were casual check-ins. Have a safe flight. Did you land? Send me a picture when you can. But by the first night, when I didn't respond immediately, her tone shifted. Why haven't you answered? Are you with Derek right now? Don't do something you'll regret. I ignored most of them. I wasn't doing anything shady, just hanging with my guys, celebrating. But the silence clearly drove her crazy. By the second night, she called me 12 times in a row. When I finally picked up, she didn't even say hello. Are you trying to punish me? She snapped. I frowned. Punish you? I'm at my bachelor party. You wanted freedom, remember? I'm just giving us both the same courtesy. There was a long pause, then her voice cracked. I don't like this. I don't like not knowing what you're doing. I leaned back in my chair, watching my friends laugh across the table. That's funny, I said quietly, because that's exactly how you expected me to feel about your little trip with Jason. Now you know. She went silent. For once, she had no comeback. When I hung up, my buddies clapped me on the back, joking about how I'd grown a spine. But inside, I wasn't celebrating. I was realizing something deeper. This wasn't just about trust. It was about respect. and hers for me had been paper thin. On the fourth day, Jason finally texted me directly. "Dude, cancel the trip. She's miserable. Don't ruin things before the wedding." I laughed and showed my friends. Derek nearly spit out his drink. "The guy who wanted to take your fiance to Vegas is lecturing you about ruining the wedding. That's rich, exactly." By the time we wrapped up the trip, I knew one thing for certain. The issue wasn't Jason or Derek or Vegas. The issue was her. And when I got back, I wasn't going to let it slide anymore. When I got back from Vegas, the apartment didn't feel like home anymore. Her suitcase still sat in the corner, half-packed from when she thought she was flying out with Jason. The sight of it was almost poetic, plans that never happened. Choices that came back to haunt her. She was sitting on the couch, waiting, arms crossed tightly, eyes red from what looked like days of crying. The second I dropped my bag, she pounced. "So," she said coldly, "did you have fun?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, we all did. No scandals, no regrets, just a good time with my friends." She narrowed her eyes. "Don't lie to me, I'm not," I replied evenly. "You're the one who wanted a week in Vegas with a guy who's clearly not just a friend. I mirrored your plan with my own friends, and suddenly I'm the bad guy. You don't get to play both sides." Her lip trembled, but she kept her tone sharp. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Jason was supposed to come. You ruined it." I tilted my head. "Jason chose not to come. He backed out the second he realized he wasn't your only safety net." "That's on him, not me," she finally cracked. Tears spilled down her face, and she buried her head in her hands. "I don't know why I thought this was okay. I didn't think you'd actually let me go through with it. I thought you'd fight harder, prove yourself. Instead, you." Her voice broke. "You stopped caring." That was the moment of clarity for me. She hadn't wanted trust. She hadn't wanted freedom. She'd wanted control proof that I'd chase, beg, bend, just to keep her happy. But when I gave her the freedom she demanded, she realized freedom cuts both ways. "I do care," I said gently. "But I care about respect more than games. If you can't see why what you asked for was a deal breaker, then maybe marriage isn't for us." She looked up, desperate now. "Please, I'll cancel everything. I'll cut ties with Jason if that's what it takes. I don't want to lose you." The room went quiet. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't smug or defiant. She was afraid. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't apologizing because she understood. She was apologizing because she was caught, because she finally saw I wouldn't tolerate it. I walked past her, setting my suitcase in the bedroom. "Think about what you really want, and think about what I deserve. Till then, I don't have an answer for you." Behind me, I heard her sobbing, but I didn't turn back. I wasn't the one who needed to change anymore. The next few days were tense. She tried everything, making dinner, leaving little notes on my desk, asking if I wanted to watch our favorite shows together. It was almost like she thought surface-level gestures could erase the deeper cracks between us. But every time I looked at her, I remembered the way she had said, "Deal with it," as if my feelings were disposable. I remembered the smugness in her eyes when she thought she could run off to Vegas with Jason while I stayed home and played the dutiful fiance. And I remembered how quickly she panicked once she realized I wasn't going to play that role anymore. On the fourth night after my return, I sat her down at the kitchen table. No distractions, no excuses, just us. "We need to talk," I said plainly. She nodded nervously, twisting her hands in her lap. "I know I've been a mess. I ruined everything. I thought I could have both. You and my freedom. But I see now that's not fair." I studied her for a long moment. "You're right, it's not. Marriage isn't about deal with it. It's about respect, trust, compromise. And if you thought planning a week-long Vegas trip with a guy who once wanted to date you was acceptable, then I don't think we're on the same page about what marriage even means." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "Please, I'll prove it to you. I'll cut Jason out of my life. I'll do whatever it takes." But her desperation only made me sad. She wasn't offering change because she understood the problem. She was offering it because she was afraid of losing the comfort of our life together. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "You know what hurts the most? It's not Jason, it's not Vegas. It's that you looked me in the eye and dismissed me. You made it clear my boundaries didn't matter. Now that your plan fell apart, suddenly they do." Her tears spilled over, but I didn't falter. I can't marry someone who only values me when it's convenient, I said softly. That's not a foundation for a marriage. That's a power game, and I'm done playing. Silence filled the room. The only sound was her quiet sobbing. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back gently. I'll give you some time to find another place, I told her. It's better we figure this out now than after vows and legal papers tie us together. Her face crumpled. You don't mean that? But I did. When I walked away from the table, I felt lighter than I had in months. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. Just free. Because sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go before someone else's chaos drags you under with them. And in that moment, I knew I had chosen myself. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.